So I've finally gone around to making this video. It's been a few weeks now, I've been a bit slow on it honestly, but the Night King has been released as a commander into the game. You can actually get him to grey for free basically. You did have to recharge, I think it was 50 black diamonds, to get either 1 or 2 of his medals as part of the one-time event for him. But you didn't have to spend any of that black diamond, so you didn't actually have to pay to unlock him. He is, however, at grey at least, I'd say fairly pointless, because he doesn't have tavern stats uniquely. He's actually forgoed his tavern stats and therefore tavern bonus in Awakening for this second sort of passive ability. It's almost like a second 4-star ability to make him better in combat. So having him grey, whilst nice, it only will really help you in like Elite Trials or Alliance Trials honestly, because you won't be getting any passive buffs from him. With his abilities here, I'm not sure he'll be very good for rebel leaders. He might be very good with something like Werewood Memories and also Training Grounds actually, because this Fearless ability specifically and Frosty Origins, these two in a Training Grounds context sound very good to me. I haven't tested it, but I assume especially in higher rarities he'll be very good there. His active does have quite high damage on it, but this 3% of max health does have a cap on it, a bit less than 2,000 at grey, so it does about like 29,000 damage here. If the bleed effect doesn't get overwritten by subsequent castings, that will really increase its value. If it does get overwritten, then it's really meh, to be honest. If it doesn't get overwritten, he might be good for something like Rebel Leaders actually. I guess we'll have to see in time whether he ends up good anywhere else. The focus of him will obviously always be in PvP. He is basically a power creeped F5 commander, where he's a bit better, on paper at least, than the likes of Daenerys, Cersei, Jon, Peter Baelish, and Sandor. They all have 25% all total stats at gold. The Night King, however, he'll have 35% total attack, 55% total attack reduction on the enemy, and 10% enemy casualty rate increase. And when he's fully awakened, 3 stars with max books invested, he will go to 71.6% total attack, 56% total attack reduction, 16% casualty rate increase, 15.6% total health, and 16.8% total defense. So he gets a lot of value of this 1.6 times multiplier, with probably the 2 highest value stats in PvP in this game, with total attack and total attack reduction. That amount of reduction is sort of insane. That's like having almost 4 gold slots in refinement of reduction, which is mental. And then 16% casualty rate increase. That, I would say, the stats are good, but 16% casualty rate increase, especially because it should stack with the dragon skill, for example, and stuff like that. Fighting into max accounts with him fully upgraded will be so oppressive because of this, because you'll just bleed so many dead, and it will be so hard to fight into him when he's fully maxed out, just because of the deads you have to take. The retraining builds will be horrific, honestly. That alone, I think, puts him a step ahead of the other commanders, just because it's so annoying to fight into. But then, everything else in his Awakening is fairly standard. You still have the active ability, damage increase, and cooldown reduction, but he is unique there also, in that his active ability doesn't do damage based off his own troops. It actually makes the enemy dragon attack the enemy lineup all the way up to 100% damage at gold. I am, however, not sure how good this actually is. On paper it sounds really good, but when you actually look at reports, dragons, at least for me, when they hit, do about the same damage as like a neutral 4-star commander active. And you also have to consider the fact that it's the enemy dragon that will be doing damage. So if you have him gold and maxed out, your dragon is probably going to have 6, or more likely 8 maxed out Legion skills, and it will just be swinging like a truck. You won't be using your own dragon to do damage of that, so you're losing quite a lot of value there. It's sort of awkward. If it puts the enemy dragon on attack cooldown, and therefore reduces damage on yourself, that will be amazing. I'm not entirely sure if it works like that. If it does, great. If it doesn't, it's still alright, but it isn't insanely better just because it's different to these functionalities. And then he's also unique with this second passive ability instead of the tavern bonus, like I said. I think the easiest way of looking at this is when using enemy army active, reduces the target lineup's attack by 20% for 10 seconds, so it will only hit one lineup, so you can basically divide that 20% by 5, so it's like 4% total attack reduction, and then it will only have cast after about 11 seconds is when the first actives or a 4-star commander gets used. So you'll have about 75% uptime of a 4% total attack debuff. So it's about a 3% total attack reduction in like general value, which, I mean, is alright. It's more stats, but it really isn't anything that insane. It isn't game-breakingly good, but it is still good value. And then his 4-star. So I'm a bit torn on his 4-star, honestly, because when you read it, it sounds beyond ridiculous, and to an extent it is. So when any of the allied lineups suffer losses of more than 20%, the Night King summons White Walkers into the lineup to participate in the battle, with numbers being 90% of troop loss for the lineup. At the same time, the lineup gains 20% attack. So I guess the way to interpret this, at least in my mind, is when a lineup has 20% of its troops defeated, it will have a one-time cast of 90% of those 20% being revived, probably as phantom troops, which gains massive value, actually, if it works like that, because you won't actually suffer real dead because of it. Not entirely sure if that's the functionality of it, but I assume so, because you can't really give people troop dead on revived troops, right? My issue with it, or at least question about it, because you can't actually have him 4-star yet. I think 1-star is the highest you can possibly get him at the time of recording, because there was like a 55 purchase limit during the event on him, and he can only use his own tokens to be awakened, so you can't convert like Cersei or John medals to awaken him. It has to be the Night King, so it will only be in the future we'll get him to 4-star and hear stories or see reports of how this actually works. But it's this first line, right? When any of the allied lineups suffer losses of more than 20%. If you have a 4-star Night King, the only accounts that you're going to be possibly suffering losses of more than 20% against will be likely other accounts with 4-star Night King, and probably rallies on great cities in all likelihood too. Like, even really strong accounts rallying max accounts, I don't think the max account, if they're like defending the rally, will even get that to proc, because 20% is a lot. Like, if you're getting rallied and you have 16 mil troops, you're going to need to lose what, 3.2 mil, and then it will proc, which are 3.2 mil. You can break past that point, but it will likely be very late in a fight, probably with full counter, and that won't happen every time. But if we just look through my saved reports, obviously these are me saving them, so I won't actually save stuff that goes terribly for me. At least I normally don't. I saved this, Tizio winning a solo on me of my lord at home, just because I thought it was funny that that's even possible. But in none of these reports, I don't lose more than 20% of my troops. It's quite a rare thing to happen in high level combat, right? So whilst it is good, I'm just not sure how much value it will actually give you every fight. Because if you compare it to something like Cersei's or John's, that's the wrong commander. Cersei will give you guaranteed value every single fight. There are no qualifiers for this, it's just your commanders use their active skills. Whereas the Night King, you have to lose more than 20% of your troops that are attacking or participating in the fight as an account that actually has a 4-star Night King. Which, even if you have no idea what you're doing, I feel like is a very difficult thing to actually do. In great city rallying context and something like CCS, it will be amazing though, but it is a bit more niche than I think it would initially be imagined as. In something like AC as well, if you have a 4-star Night King on Casterly, that is going to be hard to knock off because of this. Very, very hard to knock off because of this. Because you really need a 4-star Night King into him to sort of counterbalance this, and there are going to be so few of them out there. Like if ATD stay together as they currently are, and they all 4-star the Night King, there is no way anyone could beat them in AC ever again, probably. This is like an unsurmountable obstacle to actually knock off buildings or win rallies against, I feel like. So overall, I'd say the key points are, for rallying great cities or locations in AC, anything like that, his 4-star is game-breakingly good. This, Defecting Aftermath, isn't that insane. I wouldn't put too much thought into it. It isn't that great, honestly. But his passive stats with the reduction and the casualty rate especially are the best things about him, I'd say. If you're trying to win the city off an account of a 4-star Night King in CCS and you don't have one yourself, even the 16% casualty rate alone should be probably enough of a deterrent to just not even try, because you'll bleed so many troops, let alone how much of an advantage this will give you in rallies straight up, just from the passive stats, but then the 4-star, especially when you're trading like 50-50 of your troops that you're sending into survivors and defeated. Another key point on him also, which I probably shouldn't forget to mention, is the question of whether his 4-star will proc Jaime's 4-star, because it doesn't say healed, it specifically says summons, but it is a healing effect, especially because it works off troop losses. So I assume it will proc his 4-star, but if it doesn't, he does lose some value there. Like a Jaime Night King, Baelish, Cersei Drake comp or something in castle rallying situations, and then getting Baelish's 4-star to just proc as soon as possible could be a really, really good combination together. I think we could see that become quite meta if it does work that way for the max accounts out there. But as always, I'd just advise anyone, even more so than ever, when he gets 4-starable, if you encounter anyone with a 4-star Night King, you just have to hide. Even if you're a really strong account that can like tank max account solos, his 4-star will give such a ridiculous advantage in those soloing situations now. It will give him, in practice at least, if he'll be losing his lord and under normal circumstances, like 18% extra army size indirectly. And that's if it's only a one-time casting. It could be just infinitely casting over and over again every time 20% is lost. I assume it can't work that way, because that just entirely breaks the game, but it could. The description does leave room for interpretation for that to be a possibility. I really hope it doesn't work that way though, because I'm not sure max accounts could ever lose Lord ever again if it worked that way, which should not be how the game works whatsoever. We'll have to see. But there it is, that is the Night King broken down.